Hey, it's Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Monday. It's April 11th, start of a new week, and uh, really, it was. I guess you'd say this was a range day today. We spent most of the day within this overnight highs and lows here. We did break out higher here. It looked like what we have is a spike in a channel. And early on, I was playing this as the trend line. I believe that I had it wrong. Actually, let me show you what I originally was looking at. Actually, I had that up. I shouldn't have moved that one. I don't know if I got it back in the right spot, but I was looking at this as a midline across this top, and the fact that we broke out higher up there. So I was thinking we'd probably get a measured move up here, but we didn't, and we just reversed and sold off, and we never made a retest of the high. So in retrospect, I believe that this was the trend line here, and we had a close outside, and this was probably just an overshoot up here, or it still could have been like that right there. And so your midline, this was just a midline in here. And so I believe that to be how it was earlier or in the end, but earlier I had this down here, and this is my um, midline across this high like so, and then this at equal distance. So I was really thought we were headed to that spot, and that was kind of what I was using for a target. But once you reverse here and get this reversal pattern, you got to give up, um, especially when it didn't bounce here. It's obvious I had it wrong. It looks like we still tried to come back, but in the end, I believe it to be uh, this to be the channel right here, and you can see it fits perfectly. So that's what I believe to be right, even though I read it slightly wrong early on. I mean, close is often close enough. The only problem with whether or not this was right was, or whether the being lower was right, was whether we had a break yet or not. But it still wouldn't matter, because when we came back to the trend line where you would look for it to possibly bounce, it just shot right through. I mean, it's obvious right there that this is, we're going the other direction as strongly. And then you got a two-tiered channel here, and you got an overshoot, and generally that overshoot will lead to the break on the other side. If not on that next move back, probably the next one. And on that move, we got the break, and that would have clued you in right here possibly. But there's other reasons not to enter right here, because we're kind of going sideways here, and you can see all that support across there. So you got to be real careful getting short there. The signal bar is not very good either. So you're better off to wait on the second entry, because this low is lower than that swing low. So your second entry came here. And even on that second entry, I would have played this a certain way. This probably should be green. I forgot to change it to green. Um, but there's reasons for it. There's arguments. It's actually borderline red. It could be red. I'll leave it at green for now. By the time I get to it again, I may decide it should be red again, because it's a failed break higher out of this little trading range, and it's a second entry short. It's not a great signal bar though. Um, but it definitely traps people to the long side, and you can see how quickly it sold off. This was really, I actually tried to video a live trade here, and I couldn't get it. I mean, it happened so fast I couldn't. By the time I set my order and went to turn the recorder on, prices were already pushing through this lower line here. So, I mean, I was in and out, and really the only thing I could show you was how I managed the runners. And because we had a break in the lows here, I only went for an extra tick here. And so the whole trade was over in a blink. And so there wasn't anything to show you. So just one of those days. But eventually I'll try to find some time to record another one and show it to you. But let's back out, talk about the trades, and move along here. Um, Notice that the first trade I saw was just before 8. We were working up, and by the time 7 o'clock came, we were just kind of going sideways here. I forget which one of these bars is the 7 o'clock bar. I think it's this one right, one of these two. I guess it's this bar here. There's no real short set up there because we're working higher, and you do have a trend line working up right here. that's the first break of it. And so you got to have a really good setup, and you don't want to be taking a second entry short with that bullish of a bar right into the EMA. You might have said, hey, this is very bearish. Let's try to make a setup off it. But right into the EMA, you just can't do that, especially when you're looking for prices to go higher. And as strong as that is right there, then there's a chance there could be a spike in channel. And that's what we ended up getting, was the spike in channel. So, but there's a failed second entry short here, and it's a second entry long. And look, let me get this out of the way. Look what happened here. We broke lower first below this kind of a neutral bar here, 1 bar trading range, and it turned and went straight out the other side. So just have your stop waiting there. Otherwise, you could wait for this one to close and put your stop above it. It was a quick, easy move, and guess where we find resistance? Right up here, this previous double top, and then it comes down, and you get another second entry long. And so you get another chance to go long. Nice little reversal bar, quick, easy move, and it turns down again off that high. You're probably wondering, well, why didn't you think about going short off this high? Well, this has been a really strong move, and the odds are we're going to break out to the upper side. But notice what's happening all the way up here. These lows are higher lows. Even though we're making pretty much flat highs across here, we're making higher lows. And that generally will lead to a breakout out the other side. And plus, we're expecting one anyway based on the rules. And so I believe, I'm not going to try to go short when we're making higher lows and we're looking for a breakout at the top. So it's just smarter to stay with what we got. And then we get, of course, another pullback and another second entry long. And at that point, I really had my line down here at that point. And so this looked like a perfect setup to me. I didn't even consider that possibly being a break, but now looking back on it, I think it was. But that was a nice, but still wouldn't have mattered. You still would have been looking for a new high. We didn't quite get it there. We pulled back and we end up getting on this next move. But notice how by moving your line up here, we're bouncing off of it right here as well. I can't get the line to stop just where I want it right there. Right in there. We bounce off of it twice. You can't go long because it's right into that resistance. And you really could have treated this like a failed break higher. It is a second entry short. So if you went long right there, I'm willing to give that one a green circle. I don't like it for the reason I just stated, but there's some reasons to like that for an aggressive setup. So I'm going to mark it green for that reason. But you definitely don't want to take this next short because now you've got 3 or 4 bars in a row that are all going sideways. And the fact that we're making these higher lows up through here is the other reason I don't like it. So I think you might go short right there. I wouldn't have risked adding on or entering right here. Now, I will say this, if it had a broken higher and then turned down, I might have considered it. But even then, it's right into the EMA. But it would have worked. Actually, I circled the wrong one. It would have worked either way. But notice how it bounces again. And it's still making those higher. So the odds are telling you you're going to break out the upper side here. And look what happens. You actually finally get a failed second entry short here. And it bounces right off the previous resistance that acts as support. So I like going long right there. Notice that new low. You pull back first entry. You pull back second entry. And you get that trap, and the previous resistance is holding the support. So I like that one for a long. And then it pulls back one more time and tests it, and you get another nice bullish bar there. Just put a stop there. It's close to those highs, but we're overdue to go higher here. And really at that point, I was looking for a possible measured move. There's your first leg up, and then there's your low point right there. So measure from there, and you see we were looking for, if we'd have gone higher, I was pretty confident we probably wouldn't make that because I felt confident in this channel, this spiking channel here. And by looking at this channel, you're not going to get that high unless it trades all day long and keeps going. And So the odds of us making that target were very nil. And when we don't, and it starts trading off, that means we're probably going to get a bigger move down. And that's exactly what happened. Even though it ended up more of a neutral day, that's still a long way down. So, uh, but we get this long here. There's actually another pullback here, but we've already got a break and a new high and a couple of legs up. So I didn't feel confident taking anything else after that point, right in, especially not right into a double top like that. So even though you really could almost say we got a double top here, but it was after the fact. This is more of a break. Your double tops right here, and you break higher and pull back. But I liked it for that reason. Uh, Here, you're actually notice you got the double top here. So here you're going long right into that double top, and you never get a breakout pullback long. So I just didn't feel comfortable after that point. So it would have worked, but you're better off to skip it. And then of course we turned down up there, right off those previous highs, just dragging the same line up. And you can see how we're trying to go longer there, and it just gets stuck. And then look what happens. It shoots right through the EMA. First you got a new high, and you get a first entry long, and then it shoots. And this is kind of congestion, so this is like a little breakout pullback short. It's a failed second entry long because you got a new high, and it actually breaks higher above that bar and turns and goes right out the other side. I like going short there. And you're looking for prices to come back to here, definitely, and then it pulls back here. Since this is a double top, you can count this as a new high, and so this is basically another failed second entry long, and you still got plenty of room back to here and back to retest this line, and you wouldn't have scalped out of this one yet, so you end up catching runners on it, and you could have ridden this thing all the way down. But notice how what happens. It shoots right through that trend line. It shoots right through this uh, previous support resistance line. I mean, it doesn't check up at all. It just goes right through it. It's like hot knife through melted butter already. And then you get a second entry short here, and it's right off a midline, which at that point, um, when we shot straight through that line off those lows, and you see how it kind of fits on there. That's what I was looking at earlier, and I ended up adjusting it. But when you shoot right through that thing and it doesn't even check up, and then notice that same line, this is just the same line, you keep dragging it down, and you would have driven it down to this one if it went on through there, which you really could count it at that one, but I think it's right here, and I think this is an overshoot. And it bounces here, pulls back. That's your first break of that line up there, but it turns out it's just more of a trading range here. So you got to be real careful. But we do end up getting our break. There was a second entry short here, and I'm guessing if some of you had this, you might have got trapped. But here's a couple of clues. First of all, we're not back to the trend line, the key entry point. There was resistance there before. This is a doji. By the time this bar sets up, you get three overlapping bars side by side. One of them's a doji. You got some support right here on a little double bottom, and of course it bounces right there, and so now you got this in place. It's tempting to go short right there, but you got these lows right here, and you really don't have a good signal bar till here. So if you go short right there, you don't have room to get out. So that's the reason you got to be careful about that one. And then guess what? You get the failed break higher that fails, and it's a second entry short. Again, I make this one green because look at your signal bar. It's more neutral. It's not real far away from the EMA, but it is a failed breakout. What I like doing is waiting on this bar, letting it break lower and dropping the limit order a tick back in here, which would be one tick below this bar, which is where you should have entered originally. And you would have got filled, and then the bottom just drops out of it. Like I said, this one, I tried to record this, and it happened so fast I couldn't even record it. It was done and over with in just a blink. And you could have gotten 3 or so points out of the runner here. And then of course now you got the break, you got a new low, you got a little trap down here, but it doesn't really set up for a long. You get the failed second entry short here. Notice how we finally push through the EMA. You pull back. Notice that new low. Pull back first entry. Then you go higher and you get that second entry. It fails. Go long right there. And you can see they trap people. It ran up real quick. Then it pulls back again. There is a double bottom here, but there's a trend line right through here, and there's just no break of it. I just don't think I don't think you want to risk, even though you're looking for a new high here after the break of this channel. Sometimes when you get an overshoot, you don't get a retest. It'll fail here and just keep going lower. In this case, we do get the overshoot. There's another second entry short here, but there's not a very good signal bar. This one's got more of a, it's not bearish anyway. This one's more neutral. It's not really bearish. Pulls back. You get a second entry long right or short right here. But again, it's just such a big bar that this is just an inside bar with this bullish bar. I think you're better off to wait on the failed second entry long, which comes here, but then you're back down to the lows again. So just wait and see what happens. Just kind of, and look at all the overlap, and then it breaks higher and then turns down, and you got a big bearish bar and you got room to get out. So there's your second entry. By just being patient, you get a better setup and an easy scalp, where if you'd have entered here, you'd have got burned. And you move lower, and this again, you could almost treat this like a failed second entry long too, because there's one leg and then there's a second leg, and even though it tried to break higher here, this is still a one move. It's two legs in one move. So on a bigger picture, it would be a failed second entry long, but I don't want to get into that, so don't let that confuse you. But guess what? Then you make a new low here. Get a first entry, you pull back. You actually get a second entry short right here, but it's not a very good setup, and you've already had a break in a new low. But when it starts going sideways, it breaks higher right there, and you don't want to go long right into that resistance area and instantly turns down. I like going short there. You probably want to try to get a little, actually you would have had this move down now to here. Definitely maybe to here, but probably even here. And so that leaves you enough room to get out, but you might still consider letting it break lower than dropping a lemon or a tick or so back, just to get a little better entry, to make sure you got plenty of room to get out here. That's the key, just making sure you got enough room to get out here. And guess what? It bounces there once, then twice, and so now you've got a double test of this double bottom. And so I like going long there because it's looking like a range, and we already had your break and a new low, and so and this is basically, you can treat this like a trap almost, and quick easy move up, and that got you into your 2 o'clock hour, so nothing else. I mean, this one could almost be green because it's not a great signal bar. It is a second entry, but really what gets it is that it breaks lower there, and it's a trap, and it's a failed second entry short. The support's holding all the way across here, and you can see it closed inside that. So there's some reasons to like that one, and leave it blue, even though it's close to being a green one. So, and it's late in the day too, and you get more failures late in the day. It's right before 2 o'clock. So, I didn't mark anything else after the day. So, really, we spent most of the regular trading day within, say, 2052 down to about 2042, even though we went much higher and lower than that. So we spent most of the day within a 10-point range. This was a nice sell-off. Really no way to get in it, by following the rules and being out by 2 o'clock. But if you would have still been trading at regular hours, notice this new high here, and then you're pulling back first entry, pull back second entry, it fails. There's a perfect failed second entry long, and that would have gotten you in that trade. So there was a setup there, just came a little later. And really, you could have even argued for this short right here, and you could have ridden the whole thing all the way down, because this is a failed break higher. It's just right there. I mean, literally, it looks like it's in the white. So within one tick, so technically we could even mark that green. So Um, and you see what that would have led you to. A very nice trade that traded all the way down into the close. So there, I'll add that one because I could see people arguing for that one. Um, it's not quite into the cutoff tab yet. But again, the reason we don't like any shorts here, even though this looks very rangy, is because we're steadily making higher lows. And that generally means you're going to succeed in breaking on through. And if it happens the same way down, if you got a flat line here and it looks like a wedge working down, you're making lower highs, eventually it's going to break on generally out on that side. So that's your clue there. So remember that. Put that in your little notes if you didn't already know that. But I'm going to wrap it up. Not much else to say about today. Looks like there's some kind of, I don't know if this was earlier today or is this 12:59 tonight. It doesn't look like that's, I don't know if we have some kind of, it won't matter because we're not, you shouldn't be trading at 12:59. That's going to be after lunch. I don't know if we had this today and I missed it. Maybe that's what led to this 1 o'clock. That didn't even happen at 1 o'clock, but maybe that's what led to this big sell-off. But I didn't even talk about this, but um, you got one leg down, and so I would have been looking for a measured leg from there, um, and then from there maybe two, and that really did get you right to the close. So that was it to the tick almost. But I generally measure it from the high, and I got you close enough. So, but even if you measure it from one of these, you really got a perfect measured move down to the close. So something else to think about there too. So once we started going down, that's what I've been looking for, a measured move similar to this one, just like I was looking for one going up. And when you don't get it, that generally means you're going to get a bigger move in the other way. And you can see we had two big, huge legs down today. So I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. This is Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.